Here we go again. Buckle up. Rough roads ahead. So, let me make sure. Yeah, okay, there it is. Let's make sure my Wi-Fi was on. So, basically, enforcing deportations of undocumented immigrants hurts law enforcement if the appropriate um, messaging isn't put out there into the community. If the messaging is right, it actually helps. Because if you're not going to be deported, you might not want to risk your life. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. You're not going to risk your life informing on a narcotics distribution entity or a sex trafficking entity. And there's all sorts of things that undocumented immigrant people see that we don't see because a lot of communities have an early warning system. And when law enforcement enters into that community or drives down a certain street, everybody knows a mile ahead of the officer or ahead of DHS or whatever it is. It's a whole different world by the time you get there. So essentially, the pressure of deportation, and this is just really basic criminal investigation and law enforcement on how to um, how to investigate, how to um, gather intelligence. So there's a pressure now that they're going to be deported. Now there's a fear that they're going to be deported. So what you have to do, especially DHS, because that's where they're looking. And again, I don't know if Christy Noem knows Espanol, but a short message from the Secretary of DHS in Espanol would work. Well, she's one of the again, we have different things going on in the political world and in the law enforcement world today that's a little bit different. Yeah, I've already had mind melds with people and like, I wish it was 20 years ago. I wish it was 15 years ago. So, because this is just, it's too complicated. Everything, and that's why I'm like with Matt Gay, it could get complicated. With Mike Lee, it's not going to be complicated. He's not going to turn on anybody, especially because he's connected, and when you're connected like that, and you have a steady hand, it goes a certain way. I mean, he's steadier than Sessions and all those people. So, but let's get out off of that and onto this. So, uh, it's a little crazy. Christy Noam is a personality. She's a kind of like a talking head. She's kind of like she's seen. So what's probably going to happen, what happens around her is going to be more important than really what's happened. What's the guy now? What's that guy's name? I don't even remember. The secretary now, Alejandra. I can't remember his last name. They dissed me a long time ago, and Hashem pulled me out of that because it just wasn't going to work. Right. So Hashem being God, Mayorkas. So even more than Mayorkas, she's a bigger star. And of course, now they're looking because now deportation. The thing is to maintain a neutrality. Now, Holman, he's pontificating and he's playing the game, but there's a certain level of neutrality that he maintains, um, and that's kind of important. Uh, he's a political appointee, so there's parts of what he does that's politics, and of course, parts of what Christian Noem does is politics. But in law enforcement, um, there are people at the federal, state, and local level. DEA itself needs these people to keep providing information. And it isn't always the informant that's on it's a paid informant that is on the payroll for months on end. Sometimes it's somebody new that comes in and sees an ad on television or sees a poster on a telephone pole, and they come in and they say something, then it leads to something really big. So the pressure is not to speak to law enforcement when you're going to be deported. We want the pressure to go the other direction. Again, you can't promise something for nothing. And so you have to be very careful in what you articulate, because if they believe you promise, I mean, if they make an error in judgment, that's fine. But if you promise something and you don't give it, then it discredits the program. So it's trickier to a certain degree once deportations pick up, but there's a whole different energy, a whole different paradigm, and it actually works better to a certain degree. But and I'm not saying telling you to deceive anybody. Again, we these people are very brave. Anybody that's an undocumented immigrant that's going to speak to law enforcement, especially under an order of Trump deportation, is a very brave person. Number one, they don't know what's going to happen to them. Number two, they can't go home. They'll probably be killed if they go home. So the idea is communication and messaging. And again, I don't know what's out there, but you could really do a lot of different videos to help motivate somebody to really save themselves in some cases. And that's the other risk. Um, if they're not willing to speak, then we can't save whatever it is, 7, 10, 15 children or adults or a mixture. So it's one of the most important. Once deportations pick up, the most important law enforcement mission is actually that communication message that, hey, we still respect assistance. You know, again, some people, like Holman probably knows, some people fall through the cracks, even deporting the American citizen. So again, that came up, and that's probably a cue that that's going to happen. So we need to part of that part was, somebody was mentally, um, not incapacitated. He was had a psychological disorder or something. Maybe something like, autism or something, to a functional loss degree. So we have to dot the i's, cross t's. Now the system, I understand the system's changed since then, so it's a little more difficult for that to happen. But anything's possible. So we got to make sure we're not deporting people that are disabled just because they look Latino or something like that. And then you have to just check your checks and balances systems when you get back in those agencies, or operate with those agencies, and make sure everything's working and that it makes sense. Because the pressure now is to deport. Even the employee is going to be pressured to deport, and there's going to be a stat change. You have to have the stats. What numbers you're looking at. Mr. Trump wants this to happen fast. Whatever that pressure is, could cause some error. So you make sure the system is working at the speed that you're working it. And of course, there's a voluminous number of criminal aliens, criminal immigrants that are sitting out there that could be very easily deported. Again, gang membership is an automatic disqualifier. That one's probably going to be the first one um, that kicks off, I imagine, for the what do they call those operations? Not FIST. FIST is something else. Um, it's like a task force comes in, and they just grab a whole bunch of people that are on a list. Again, there's going to be a list of people that are gang members, and you're going to have teams. And this is what I believe you're going to do. You're going to have teams of people, and you're going to go into the area where they all are theoretically residing, and then you're going to grab all the gang members and people that. And then there's the people that really aren't employed, that are just living off of whatever program comes their way. Again, those people need to get jobs if they expect any type of consideration. And again, I'm not hating on them. The system is built to handle so many immigrants, and the system that I'm speaking about, is the entire system, the entire law enforcement system, the entire DHS system, and it can only protect to a certain point the immigrant. It could even protect undocumented immigrants, but once it goes above a certain point, there's no protection, and it's just you're empowering criminal enterprise. So that whether you deport or not, the key is not to empower the criminal enterprise. But deportation can actually an increase in deportation can actually, uh, if the messaging isn't right, could empower the criminal enterprise, because now they need the criminal enterprise even that much more because they're afraid of being deported. So the messaging is the important part, and I would say from the secretary on down, they should tell people, you can still speak to us. We can still, you know, help you if you help us. Because once they start, again, it can't be a lie, and it can't be, oh, this person over here uh, stole $1 from that person. I don't know if we can do anything for that person. So again, you have to explain the program so they understand it, and uh, and that should work. I think I received something from DEA people that had concern because they have a lot of people that they work and that they pick up, like just somebody, sends a tip to a HSI person and the tip comes to DEA and they were able to start another investigation. And then they tell you, there's some things where they tie it back to something in Mexico also by accident. Somebody comes in, it's an undocumented immigrant. They speak about something that's happening here, and then they start asking them questions about their journey here, and they figure out something else. So it's just a very important asset that we need to continue to use. It may actually, if the messaging is right, it'll actually work better because when there's no pressure to be deported, sometimes there's no pressure to say anything about anything. Why complicate life? So now life is complicated and they're going to be deported. They may say, hey, I'm going to go in and speak to these people and see if I can stay here or whatever it is. So essentially, uh, it's just a very important. I keep receiving on it, and that's why I keep speaking on it. It's a very important aspect of DHS once they begin this increase in deportation, and there's going to be task forces, and there's going to be some locations where a large number of people are going to be detained for deportation. But again, the idea is to really go after those gang members first, and then I guess next would be anybody that's really just what they call sucking off the tit and just laying around, and right. And then lastly, the people that are gainfully employed. I don't know how it's going to work and how Trump's going to feel about things and how anyone else is going to feel about things, but there's a certain point of deportation where we start having issue. There's a couple ways of handling it, and again, that is to I understand this has been done before, uh, individual cases where somebody took something to a judge and said, "Look, this person is a good person, and this is what they've been doing," and the judge changes the deportation order, but that's like a rare case. So, but the idea is, if you do work visas, like how do you know how many of which work? See, the undocumented immigrant is working off of something that an employer is doing. Right? You may have 10 undocumented immigrants at, let's say, a smelting plant that may never come up for work visa, but that smelting plant depends on those 10 undocumented immigrants. So again, you do what you want because you can do work visas before you deport people that are gainfully employed. You can create work visas for people in other countries and bring them here. But how do you know where they're working? These people are in, one person works at Starbucks, the other person works at a melting plant, the other person's a landscaper, the other person over there is building houses for Trump communities. So again, there's a big lie going on. That's what always like once I became knowledgeable, that was the one thing that was like, what? That jumped out at me. How people were making like even Republicans are making money off of undocumented immigrants. Republicans are buying houses built by undocumented immigrants and saving $20,000, $30,000, on a few $100,000 house. So again, these are realities. That's why I say, I don't know if you want to, once you get to the point where it's just really gainfully employed people, you know, I don't know what you want to do. I myself, if I had my choice, I look at their history, and if it looks like 3 years of employment, they go to church one Sunday a month, you know, that kind of thing. They like shopping at Walmart and Target. Sounds like everybody else here. So maybe it's a reason that that you interview the boss. Oh, it's great work, a great work. Okay, they say, that kind of thing. I don't know if you're going to do that, but again, it's the idea of cutting your nose off to spite your face. Right? We have enough bad people here that it'll take a while to get to that level of deportation. But yeah, my recommendation would be I don't know what they call those things, but it's a task force operation, and you gather your names of essentially, I know it's everybody. Okay, undocumented. I like saying undocumented immigrant because some of these people are nice people. Some of these people are victims of criminal enterprise. A lot of them were defrauded before they even decided to come up here. So a lot going on there. But what I call criminal aliens. Right? So your first, of course, you all know the first list is criminal aliens. So we should have task forces. Again, I don't know if we just want to use. He told Holman said it was going to be a big. I guess I assumed it would be very large task forces, but I don't know who he's going to use. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I have no idea. Does he already have people online that know what's going to go on? So again, you need you can grab U.S. Marshals. DEA used to do this all the time. We need 5 marshals, and we're going to do we're going to raid a bunch of houses. So you can do that kind of thing. Right. I know. Oh, that's right. You have the task forces now. Back when I was in, there's a lot less task forces. Now they have a lot of task forces. So I guess he's just going to line up tasks. Everybody helps each other through these task forces. And again, homicide uh, warrants are the first level of assistance, and then everything else, down from there. So essentially, they'll just bring in the. It's saying something about a fist operation. I got to go look. I don't know what it wants me to look at there. So I guess they're going to run it like a fist operation. So it's just the matter. Still respect people. I mean, law enforcement. I mean, I know I look at this stuff. I go, yeah. I mean, politics and just Holman does it a little bit, but he still maintains professional um, demeanor. Some people get a little far out with it. Well, that's the point. If you lose your what they used to call it the military bearing, but if you lose that level headedness, you could be hurting the DEA mission. You could be hurting the HSI mission because we depend on people to tell us things. Right. Yeah, when I was in corrections, it was the greatest. It's the easiest way to be. You just talk to people like you're having a normal conversation, and they assume that you know everything, and they start telling you things. Right? Even in the marshal service, not as much. I mean, corrections was like the easiest thing in the world. I have no idea why it was so easy to get information, but it was. Marshal service, you'll have people. You used to have people. Yeah, they come up to you. You just like doing. You're doing you're going into a house and you're just sitting there, standing there, because you have you're back of the house or something. People just walk up to you, so you have to present yourself right. So that's the problem of deportations. They won't walk up to you and just say, "Hey." Da, 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 da." I've had people just walk up to me and tell me about all sorts of things. It's just it's good people, I guess. They risk themselves and they come and they just tell you about something. It doesn't. It may not have nothing to do with the warrant that you're working. They'll just tell you about crime and stuff because they want you to know. And I don't know why. I guess it could be a voice. Tell Larry. Oh, that's Larry. Tell Larry. So again, be a good good salt. I guess they say be a good person and just do your job. No reason to play the political hype. Now, Homan, he has to do it, and Christy Noam has to do it because they're part of that machine, right? But we have to. Those people also need to make sure that we maintain those programs and that message. So again, I guess you're going to go in and do like fist operations, and then just converge on neighborhoods or something. That again, it works sometimes, doesn't work sometimes because once they know you're there, then they. So yeah, the fist operation should have several neighborhoods and just kind of work one and then quickly move to the next and just keep moving around. I wonder if you could get. I wonder if you're all going to get jumped again. I think the last time you all got jumped. And, like, that sucks so bad. I saw that one, I was like, "Ah, what do you do?" It's like 40 people and, like, 5 DHS people. So, again, you have to counter for that. And I guess, the way Home is speaking, he's gonna use large numbers, and that's really safety in numbers kinda deal. Right. But again, you keep the right attitude, you keep the right messaging, and it won't hurt the overall law enforcement mission. I mean, that was the big fight last time. Everybody was like, "Yeah, you're ruining our informant thing we got going on." Right. But again, anybody that's again, that's the whole count. I think I started that last time because of that. The whole counter, you have to counter that. The messaging, and don't be. That's why if you become a jerk in the messaging, then it doesn't work. Right. Well, you counter the messaging. Well, it's very important. Again, it's not just HSI. It's not just ICE. It's everybody's mission depends on people coming in and undocumented immigrants. See, if I went against any organization that was helping law enforcement, it was corrupt. It wasn't that it was some legitimate operation. Don't let them tell you some BS. You're not supposed to give immigrants uh, citizenship for corrupt process. Teach them how to be corrupt. So I don't think there's anything else. Just because when I'm speaking, I'm seeing. So if I sometimes I sit here because I can see. I'm a visionary. I'm a psychic. So when I sit here, I start seeing operations, and then sometimes I see something like I saw when you go into a neighborhood, it's going to be burnt after a certain point. So when you schedule your detention operations, whatever you want to call them, your deportation operations, you want to move around a city. So you want to have uh, you would have several locations. And but again, traditionally you'll go into a neighborhood, you'll work over here, and then you got a guy or a gal a half a mile away or a mile away. You'll go to that one. What I'm saying is that you don't do it that way. You do one or two or three or whatever it is. I don't know how many people you're going to use, and of course each operation is different. And then you run across town, and you do it across town. It might be more successful. There's a communication system out there that's pretty foolproof. I believe people were even, and I don't know because I get cops doing crazy stuff to me to confuse me. But again, if I see it, it still might be what I say it is, even though it's a bunch of people just trying to play that corrupt game, right? Uh, Essentially, it looked like people may have been coming up on the road to track me, and maybe just to psychologically affect me. But when you look at what ICE is doing, you might actually have people following you around the city, watching where you go. And they might be you go up on a highway, they got a vehicle that goes up on the highway and follows you on the highway. Then you turn off the highway, somebody picks you up down on the street. Again, the same way from what I can tell, uh, the criminal entities are using the same system law enforcement uses. But again, it's for crime. And they got informants, you knew that, right? But they also have they're also following you through landscapers and other things. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do.